Hey, there you are.
Good. How's it going?
Good, Hannah. How you been?
Doing great. Doing great. Remind me again where in Texas you are.
I'm about, as the crow flies, 20 minutes southwest of Austin.
Cool.
Yeah,
Um, that's right. I love it out there. I love Austin.
yeah. It's a beautiful little part of the continent for sure.
So I gave a brief intro about you and your work, barely, but I
Cool.
wanted to kind of hear from you how you define your practice, how you define your work, maybe 3 words that describe your output.
Sure. Yeah, very stripped down version is, I would say, dreamy, nostalgic, and honest. Just how I see, certain visions and stuff is exactly how I try to, put it down. So very stripped down for sure.
I always call you an animator, and I call you kind of an analog animator, like a 2D analog animator. I don't know if you want to define that differently, but I feel like there's like an analog nostalgia to your work.
100%. It's a lot of it is hand drawn. Going back to like the old like rotoscope days. I'll get some footage and I'll literally just be hand drawing it. So analog, with some touches, obviously After Effects editing and stuff. But yeah, the core is very analog for sure.
I love that. So for everyone just joining, we're talking with Andrew Knives today, one of our latest artists that we're starting to work with. We've actually worked with Andrew for years, and I'm super excited to work with him in a bigger capacity now.
Right.
But when you were a kid, what like animations or cartoons were you most drawn to? Do you think that there's like a relevance to that in your current work?
Totally. Yeah, it was all like the 70s. Like the Levi's ads, all like the 70s kind of Americana ads. They all had kind of like a psychedelic undertone for like that, time period. So just immediately I was just drawn to that, psychedelic world. Real grainy, real gritty, and like very much so real hand drawn. I think you could really get a lot of personality when you do work like that. So just right out of the gates, that's something that like really sparked my interest.
Also, a lot of like the graphic work, like the posters, the musician stuff, the band stuff that was happening in the 60s and 70s that was like really solid and graphic. I feel like your work has undertones of that too.
Yeah, even advertising, like Coca-Cola ads back then, they were all psychedelic. McDonald's ads back then were all kind of trippy. So just everything kind of going on around that time period was just very much, there's a lot of expression and a lot of like experimentation. And to me, that's what art is. It's not really categorized or bound by any guidelines. It's just kind of going crazy. And that's kind of where I'm kind of taking, or trying to take, my work.
What do you like play a soundtrack in your head that matches your work, or do you have a soundtrack that you listen to that like kind of feels like in line with the output that you have?
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day. It starts with like the weather. And if we're having like a sunny day, I'm listening to, kind of bright, upbeat music. And then that affects the work that I do. On, the other side, if it's drab and cold, I'm listening to more, harder sounds. And that also affects like the work I do. So definitely I have, my Spotify is just chaos in terms of playlists and just, things to kind of fit each certain vibe. And I just kind of just dive in and just, work to however I see how I'm feeling.
It's always interesting how much of like your internal dialogue and like the exterior environment affects your work. And some of that's super apparent, like, it's sunny out and you want to make sunny work. And some of it I always felt like was more subconscious, where my work was like talking back and reflecting like something that I had been going through, like subconscious or not. But yeah, I guess we're all influenced by all kinds of stuff.
Totally.
What about like current influences? Do you seek stuff out? Do you look up like nostalgia and 70s? Do you like, go to, I don't know, libraries or shows, or do Google?
A lot of art shows just kind of get me inspired, just seeing color different, how like other artists, interpret color and shapes and whatnot. Social media, although it has kind of a negative stigma sometimes, like the artists I follow, like they're always coming out with like killer stuff. So that's always sparking inspo. And then again, like new bands that come out, a new album that drops just sparks, you know, whether it's like a line in a song that just came out, it just kind of gets my mind thinking a certain way. And then I just like explore that avenue. And that's just always, you know, it's just never ending. That stuff's always coming out. So I'm always finding inspiration through that way.
Yeah, there's probably a lot, you being so close to Austin, like happening musically that inspires your work, you know?
Yeah. In moving out here, you kind of said in the intro, from California, like we were received like in this great community of musicians and artists too. So just constantly being around that, being around people that are, you know, coming out with new music or coming out with new pieces of art, it just kind of keeps the fire going and the stoke alive. And it's just, yeah, it's, you know, inspiring, very inspiring.
Cool. So what's your regular day like, and what's your process like? Are you making art every day? Are you spending time, you know, early in the day? Do you start with illustrating? I'm just kind of curious to hear you, you know, talk about how your drive goes.
Sure. So yeah, every morning's kind of similar. I mean, I wake up, have, you know, a cup of coffee, and then, you know, take care of the dogs, and I just have a newborn, so make sure he's good. And then I just hop in the office, put on some music. I usually start the morning with like a creative exercise. So that's, you know, watching a tutorial or, you know, just finding some inspiration and kind of just getting my mind kind of in that space. And then I just look at like the workload for the day. And if it's, you know, kind of light that day, then I'll just, you know, use the majority of the day to kind of explore different techniques or kind of just jot some ideas down and explore those ideas. And then that's, you know, that's pretty much the Monday through Friday, the creative process.
Cool. When you were a kid, did you want to be an illustrator or an animator, or did you imagine that you wanted to be like a firefighter or a space guy?
It's funny, like, right, I remember is summer of 1997, my mom came home with a VHS recorder, and I would like stay in on the weekends, and I would do like the full-on stop animation like video work with just this old school camera. And then it got to the point where I would, you know, film a stop animation, pop it into the VCR, and then call up like my local radio station, request a song, wait for it to play, and then record the video that was being on the TV. Yeah. So from an early age, I don't know what it was, but I just fell in love with just, you know, matching like a song to a visual. For that connection there just hit me at an early age, and it's what I wanted to do, you know, my whole life. Even
that like analog process of, you know, you have your work and then you put the audio overlay. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that, I don't know about, you know, generationally, but I definitely used to record the radio onto tape to like,
yeah,
I don't listen to radio shows or something again.
Right. Yeah. This, you know, the age of the mixtape, that's what, you know, you call in, record, and that's how it all started.
For sure. Classic. I love that. How have you been like navigating, like digital options and opportunities? I mean, I know you like integrate After Effects. Are you like trying to stay true to traditional, or are you like trying to push more into technology and digital? Like, where do you find yourself kind of navigating when it comes to software and tech? And are you intentionally, you know, kind of being more hands-on?
I think at the base of my work, it is definitely, I'm trying to keep it as OG and like original analog as I can, but still, you know, exploring, and I use a lot of After Effects, and that's like as far as, you know, analog as you can. So I just, at the core of my work, I want it to be, you know, as stripped down as possible, while still applying, you know, a lot of this like digital stuff. Cause I mean, it's there, and I want to kind of be like a tool where I'm capable of like using all of these pieces. I don't just want to like pigeonhole myself into one style. So I'm very much aware of like the digital side of things. But yeah, I still want to be, you know, as stripped down as possible.
Cool. I mean, I think personally, that's what makes your aesthetic and your work so special, is that it has that like warm, personal, analog, hand-drawn quality to it, which, you know, we all know is like rarer and rarer and super,
Sure.
you know, like as a trade or as a skill or as just like an art form. It's important, you know, it's important to see the handwork in it. And I love that quality of your work a lot.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you're excited about that you're working on or working towards, or things that you want to try or do in the next coming months?
Yeah, I'm actually working on 15, right now it's 15-minute short. And it's all hand-drawn, a lot of rotoscope, a lot of like frame-by-frame animations, taking forever, but I don't want to say too much, but the concept, you know, loosely is, like I had mentioned, my son being born, and I had this crazy like existential experience where I was like feeding him for like one of the first times. He was only, you know, a couple days old. And I had this like tunnel vision when I was looking at his eyes, and I just saw myself looking back at me. And it was like this weird, like retrospective kind of like inward kind of doing inventory on myself. And I want to just explore that. So that's like the short that I'm working on, shooting to have it be done by the top of next year. But that's really what I'm working on when, you know, I have some downtime. So that's like a huge passion project that I'm like so fired up. I keep coming back to it and you know, exploring it. It's been awesome.
That's so cool. I mean, that sounds like it could almost like fall into a short film category.
Totally. Yeah. That's kind of what the goal is. I'm you know, South by Southwest is out here. So that's the goal, to finish this and then submit that. So that loose goal.
I love that. I love short film stuff, and, you know, shorts and animated shorts, and, you know, longer than social media, but shorter than a feature.
Right. Yeah. That little sweet spot.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. What else? What about, you know, like longer term client goals, or kind of like things that you strive for, you know, commercial work? I mean, obviously we focus on client commercial work. Like, what are your dreams that you want to execute in like the career side of things? Yeah,
a big one, and this is like, you know, the mecca, is I want to get on the Sphere in Vegas. I've been like manifesting that since you know, they built that thing.
Wow.
Just seeing like people's work on there, it's just so powerful. It's so awesome. So that's a massive one that I'm, you know, currently like working towards. Another one is just getting back like visuals on stage with artists. I was doing that quite a bit before, you know, COVID shut everything down, and it kind of trickled back, you know, but just to kind of get back on stage visuals. I love doing that. So that's like another goal of mine, is to kind of get back on stage.
Yeah. I feel like live visuals are back, like, you know, big, I think bands are really pushing back towards that, the whole experiential stuff. Sphere is awesome. You know, you've come to the right place.
Right.
But I think that, you know, as hard as things seem, like, it's also exciting as people try and seek like more connectivity and, you know, visuals with events, and like the authenticity in work and in visuals. I think that that's just going to keep getting more and more important to people,
for sure.
Which I always appreciate.
Right.
But yeah, well, let's see. What else can we talk about? How's the new life of being a dad and balancing that with creative, and like, you know, I mean, I've always, you know, kind of leaned into my time and creative time and like had that as my biggest thing, but now you have another big thing.
Yeah, it's great. It's beautiful. It's so inspiring. I feel like I'm seeing the world, as cliche as it is, in a different lens. You know, I'm seeing it through his little eyes. It sparked like a whole new creativity in me. It's great. At the same time, it's so tricky to navigate, you know, especially when you're working on a project. Like, you could log in, you know, half a day and it goes by in like a blink of an eye. So just being conscious of, you know, how I'm spending my work hours, it's gotten me to be a lot more productive and not really kind of wasting time on like a certain effect or, you know, a certain piece. It's kind of just got me a lot more organized in terms of like the workload. So that's been killer. And then it's just, you know, you just figure it out. you work, different hours, you work at night when he's asleep, and you just kind of, adjust. But yeah, it's been amazing.
I mean, time becomes like just even more precious.
Totally.
And finding that balance is like, I mean, I talk about balance a lot because being an artist and balancing, relationships and kids and jobs and time and sleep and self-help and all of it is like
right.
the most important thing that we can all do and learn from each other about. And then, bringing someone else into the world and finding that balance with, the career that you've established is, everyone navigates it differently, totally. But it sounds right. And, like balancing enough time where you're fulfilled and the family's fulfilled and
right.
romance fulfilled,
Well, that's the blessing with being freelance is, I'm kind of making my own hours. So I'm so thankful that I'm, in the position that I'm in to, I don't have really a clock in, clock out hours. I'm kind of just, whatever works for, that week I'm kind of running with, and, next week he might throw me a little curveball and I have to kind of figure it out. But luckily I have that freedom to kind of, navigate, what comes my way.
Totally. And I mean, I know there's challenges with it, but I always thought that the freedom like outweighs most other things, like having the freedom of time as such a valuable asset, and, like spending that with family and how you want it. Like that's literally what life is about. And I think that that's, the most important thing to juggle.
100%. And that, to your point, that's for me, at least, the most inspiring. Like when I'm able to spend quality time doing whatever, like on a random Monday going, taking a walk in nature, like something will spark in me that I wouldn't normally get if I was, didn't have that freedom. So it's definitely a give and take, but I feel like I'm getting a lot more out of it than I'm giving, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
How did you find your path into becoming the animator that you are? Like, did this happen like as a gradual thing from your education, or was it like a personal practice that you kind of like leaned into more? How has your process gotten to where it is just as your career?
Sure. Yeah. I started off doing like band merch, band posters, tour posters and whatnot. And then, that led into, a certain band wanted to see their like merch design animated. So that got me into like the animation side of things. And then they wanted me to, do videos for them. So that got me into just doing animation even more. And then that just blew the door open, and to where my mind was always thinking motion. So I would draw something and then I would just think, okay, that's cool. It'd be a lot cooler if it was moving, and then all these other pieces were moving too. And so that kind of just led me, it happened quick. It just led me to where I am now, to where it's just, I'll think of something, or I'll, hear a song like I was saying, and it'll spark, something. And then I would just want to build this vision out, build this world out of, what I see in my head. And yeah, so now everything that I do is pretty much, motion.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever play music? Was that ever a part of like your creative?
Yeah, we were in like a jam band. We played a lot of, not jam band, but we played a lot of like pure type music where we would just mess around and play the same chord for 20 minutes. So yeah, I played music. I've just always been in love with music, and always, it just painted this visual, vivid imagery in my head, like, more so than like a movie or a book. So I just always thought that was like a really great form of self-expression. And then what better like accompany with it is than like visuals that go along with it. So
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Have any dream clients in the music industry or bands, or would you want to do merch?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I really like to do like whole capsules, so merch, and then pair it with, social ads, pair it with, a music video, pair it with stage visuals. But yeah, I would love to, Kevin Parker and with Tame Impala, I would love to work with them. Tom York and his project Smile, I would love to work with them. Those are two bands that I feel like their visuals and their music kind of fall in line with like what I do.
Cool.
So I just think like that pairing would be, insane. But yeah, I mean, and just like other like up and coming artists too, like someone that's just doing something new, I love to work with, so there's really no like limit to what I'm seeking right now, actually. Yeah.
I like hearing you talk about it, and I like having people verbalize it as just like a manifestation, like put it in the world.
Yeah.
Like the way you talk about your work and the way you see your work, and like, putting it in the universe is how things happen, telling yourself what you want to do and putting it out there. And, words like give energy, and words like provide manifestation. And I just think that process is important.
Totally. As a kid, I remember I would literally say, I want to do this for a living, and now I am. So like to your point, words definitely do carry an energy, and they definitely, pave the way for things that are going to happen in the future, for sure.
And I don't think like the majority of people understand that enough, is that like you totally can, manifest it how you want it. And like the power of positivity, and every self-help book I've ever read, like it's so important that you believe that you can do whatever you want to do, because you pretty much, you know what I mean? It might be hard, it might not be easy, but it's like to some degree, like it's totally possible.
Totally. I mean, and if you're not going to believe it, then no one else will, you know what I mean? So that's like the first step, is you have to kind of see it and visualize it. And then, it almost gets, then it already exists. It's just, you have to kind of get there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. What did you find some of your biggest challenges were in getting there? Was it like, the pay? Was it the clients? Was it the inspiration? Was it like location or geography? Or, I know everyone has their own challenges, and free hard, it's hard kind of finding your path. But what didn't work and what worked?
For me, it was inspiration, but in the sense that I feel even currently like, and it's funny to say, but I feel like I can be too inspired sometimes, where I'm just like seeing something, oh, I like that style, or and I see something, I like that style, and you don't really develop this like identity as a designer. You're kind of just doing what you like. So early on, that was like my biggest downfalls. I was just so hyped on so much that I would see, and that would affect the work that I would do, to where it was like no one really knew if this was me, because it looked so different than something that I had done, a few days ago. So I think like over time I've kind of like narrowed it down to, my specific style. But starting out, that was like a big hurdle that I had to get over, is just like figuring out, what's really authentic to my vision, and just kind of sticking with that, and not being so like inspired or like sidetracked by, other, pieces of work. So that was a big one. Other than that, I mean, as a kid, just growing up, I wanting to do this like full time, finding like clients who would like appreciate, like the work and, like the vision that goes in with creating, stuff like this. But over time, you just kind of get a little more projects under your belt, and you get a little more, confidence and clout. And then it just kind of, you can navigate that a whole lot better. And that just comes with time. So yeah, right out of the gates, those were the two main ones. But it's kind of just been smooth sailing as long as I like stick to my formula, stick to what I want to do. It's kind of the path of least resistance, honestly.
I mean, I think finding your style and finding your world and like kind of navigating your, signature is the hardest thing for a lot of artists. And I think that, it's really easy to see what a lot of other people are making and like want to be drawn to that, and like,
for sure,
watch them, but not too closely. It's like, be aware of maybe your references, but like try and find your own way to make that output.
Totally.
That's definitely a big challenge I think that a lot of people have. And since everything is so accessible, like visually, to, take it with a grain of salt when like you put it back into your own work. But
for sure,
I think you've done a really good job at, like navigating how the work that you produce like feels like your own. Like it feels like you developed a world and like a style and an aesthetic. And you know, I've watched it kind of shift over the last couple of years, but it's stayed super consistent. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like in with your palette and with your, you know, line weight and your motion, and like every now and then it'll fluctuate a little bit, but I think that that's a hard thing for, you know, artists to kind of figure out, is like what are they making? What is it, you know, what are they, what does it look like?
And you only really find that when you're doing it, you know, consistently. So, you know, you just kind of have to just push through. And then over time, like I said, you'll just start to develop your own style, and then it just kind of, you know, comes naturally.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Are you big on like animation these days, or, you know, like animated films or movies or cartoons? I mean, at some point in the next couple of years, you'll be watching cartoons.
Right.
So I'm
right.
care about, you know, like what's happening in like the new media motion world. Animation.
I honestly, I don't pay much attention to like the stuff that's coming out now. I was really hyped on Bluey, that dog animation. That was really cool. Yeah. It's a lot of that what I'm seeing currently, and I could just be missing, you know, what's cool, but it's just kind of too busy. And I just always go back to like the old, you know, pre-80s or maybe pre-90s animations, where it's just a lot more, in my opinion, a lot more like pleasant to look at, you know, like the backgrounds are a lot more thought out, and it's there's a lot more going on. So yeah, I just always revisit like the old stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
What's your favorite color palette right now? I can guess, but I want to hear like top.
I'm really hyped on burnt orange, blue, white, and black. And for something about it, just, I don't know, I always go back to it. I, you know, try to stray away, but I'm always going back to it.
I mean, that's important too, to like have your signature colors or your colors that, you know what I mean? That it can change for sure, and we can go through phases, but you know, consistency is cool. And I love that palette, actually. I love a lot of your current work as that palette.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny because, you know, I was never really big on the color orange. I actually didn't like the color orange for the longest time for some reason, and just when I seeing those colors together, it's just I'm drawn to it now. So it's just so funny.
I mean, there's nostalgia in that too. It's like a blue and a burnt orange, and like there's some sort of vintage appeal there.
Yeah.
It's not high gloss. It's not high chrome. It's like you do like a matte, muted vintage aesthetic, which I really like.
Yeah, it just feels, to me, it just feels like familiar and very comfortable to like, you know, see those colors in like that setting.
Are you trying to push yourself with process, or do you love After Effects and like just the ins and outs of how you're doing motion now?
Yeah, I am. I'm trying to push myself in doing a lot more.
I think I lost audio. Does anyone else lose audio?
Just not trying to cut corners with like that whole process of just, you know, take time. It's tedious, but just kind of staying through it. So that's really what I'm trying to work on. And as far as like doing like After Effects, just trying to, you know, find, you know, new ways of getting, you know, my vision across, just a little more quicker, seamlessly, to kind of make up for the time it takes to draw all those frames out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I'm trying to push myself.
Are you like an ink illustrator, or are you like a tablet illustrator?
I'm doing tablet, so I'm drawing everything on an iPad. Yeah.
Did you used to be a pen and ink illustrator?
Yeah. I used to draw everything, scan it, upload it to After Effects, you know, or upload it to Illustrator, get the files, upload it to After Effects, and it turned like a whole, you know, it would take, you know, 15 seconds of an animation. I would, you know, work on it for, you know, 3 days. So the tablet just makes things a lot quicker.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm with it not feeling like paper, but that's because I'm a paper purist.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it feels weird when you first start. Yeah, it's a little too smooth, but yeah.
Is Procreate still like running the market as the best thing?
There's a few, but Procreate for me is just the easiest. It's been around forever. The interface is super easy. It's familiar, so that's what I use.
Totally.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, do you guys have any big plans this summer or for the rest of the year, or we're just kind of coasting?
We're just kind of coasting. Yeah, just hanging. Just I got some projects, you know, up in the air right now that I'm excited about. Can't really say too much about them, but just kind of gonna be finishing those. And just kind of just cruising for the summer and trying to stay cool. It gets pretty hot out here, so just go swimming and just stay busy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, for everyone that has joined in and is joining, Andrew Knives is one of our recent artists here at H+. Beautiful analog animation style. If you haven't already given him a follow, go ahead and do so. And we keep these at around 30-45 minutes, so we're hitting good time, and I don't want to take much of your day. So any last minute notes or thoughts or anything that you wanted to add?
I just want to say how hyped I am to come back to H+. Really excited for the year. We've done some really cool shit in the past, and I'm looking forward to doing some more cool shit in the future. Yeah.
Me too. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to let everyone get on with their day, and we save these on Vimeo and in Instagram, and feel free to share and go back to it. I always find that they're a good source of inspiration to kind of hear other creatives and talk about their process and challenges. And thank you so much, Andrew. Thanks for joining, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.